Hello friend, this is the first lecture of Environment and Ecology, and in this lecture we will learn about introduction and basic term related to environment and ecology. We will start with environment. Environment means surrounding. Almost everything including living and non-living beings. Uh, it, it is everything that has influence on the organism during its lifetime. Uh, English scholar Carlyle coined the term environment while he was translating the German word Umgebung. He coined environment from French word envirnia. Envirnia means surround. So here is the figure. In that figure, you can see different term that environment, aquatic ecosystem, and ecology. So environment is a very broad term, and ecology and ecosystem are part of environment. Now ecology. Ecology is derived from Greek word okio plus logi. Okio means home and logi means study. In 1866, this term ecology was derived by Greek word okiology in 1866 by German scientist Ernest Haeckel. He coined the term ecology. It is a study of interaction among different components of the environment or ecosystem. So it is the relationship between organism and organism, or organism and surrounding. Basically, relationship between living being and living being, or living being or non-living being. Ecosystem. The term ecosystem was coined by Arthur Roy Caleb, and it was first time used by his co-worker Arthur Tansley. He was British ecologist. Ecosystem are functional unit of nature or environment, like terrestrial ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem. Ecosystem is defined on a community level, and ecosystem is the biotic community and the physical environment inhabited by it. Next term was ecotope. Ecotope is spatial extent of ecosystem or habitat of community. Subtype of environment. Based on different aspect of environment is defined by different term, like physical environment. The physical environment is it depicts the physical component of an environment, mainly non-living components like climate, water bodies, temperature, etc. Next is biological environment. But in the in biological environment, biological components of environment like flora, fauna, human being, and microorganism are defined. Then cultural environment, it defines cultural aspect of environment, generally man-made, like church, temple, gardens, etc. Then natural environment, naturally occurring components of an environment. It is living plus non-living being. Then cognitive environment or subjective environment. It is environment perceived by individual, what you think your environment. So it was subjective environment. Then operational environment means all component of an environment that have impact on an individual. Next is four sphere of Earth. First is lithosphere. Lithosphere is rigid outermost rocky part of Earth. Then second is hydrosphere. Hydrosphere is total water found on, under, and above the Earth. And cryosphere. Cryosphere is basically part of hydrosphere. It is all water on Earth in solid form or frozen. Third is atmosphere. Atmosphere is layer of gases that surrounds the Earth. Then fourth is biosphere. Biosphere is part of Earth where life exists. We will discuss these four terms in geography. So uh, so we will see it in geography lecture. Then man versus environment. Charles Darwin, he was a UK naturalist, and he gave a concept that life evolved as per the environment. Then next scholar was Friedrich Ratzel. He was German geographer, and he gave the concept of environmental deterministic. The next scholar was Alan Churchill Sample. Uh, he was American geographer, and he told that man is the product of the earth environment. So the nature of man is determined by its environment. Basically, this concept was given by many scholars. So we will see how the concept evolved. The first theory was environmental deterministic, and it was given by Frederick Redgel, a German geographer. He told that human action is controlled by the environment. It is the natural factors that determine the different aspects of human life. So, as per him, the environment is active agent and nature of man is passive agent. So, um, uh, man does not decide his nature, but it was decided by environment. The criticism of environmental deterministic is a different response by human living in the same physical environment, and ignorance of human impact on the environment. These are the two critics of environmental deterministic theory. The next theory was environmental pos- possibilism. It was given by French geographer named Vidal de Lablache. He asserted man as an active agent and environment as a passive agent. Later, this concept was profound by French historian Fabre, who coined the term possibilism or environmental possibilism. As per possibilism theory, the environment provides option and human or active agents select an option, but options are limited by environment. So different custom result in different response by human living in the same physical environment, as there are different options provided by environment, and man as a active agent select one option among them. So here the selection is done by man. So man is active agent. Then next one is cultural deterministic, and as per this theory, it was culture that shapes the human nature, not environment, not directly environment. And natural selection. Natural selection is the process by which species adapt to their environment. The theory of evolution by natural selection was developed by Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace independently. The two scholars give this theory independently. Theory of natural selection. Darwin observed the morphological variation of individual belonging to the same species at Galapagos Island at Ecuador, and gave the concept of natural selection. Charles Darwin, he was considered as father of evolutionary theory. He published on the origin of species by natural selection in 1859. As per natural selection, morphological and genetic changes over generation is based on environment or nature. Components of natural selection: higher ratio of younger ones, morphological and other variation in organism. Uh, Third is struggle to survive, and fourth one is adaptation. Based on Darwin theory of natural selection, Herbert Spencer, a British biologist, coined the term survival of the fittest. The term survival of the fittest denotes natural selection plus cultural development or ethical development. So it was broader than natural selection, as it also involves ethical development. Other biological rules related to environment, different scholars give different rules. First one is Glogger's rule. As per this rule, pigmentation is directly proportional to humidity. If humidity will high, then pigmentation will be high in a organism. Then next rule was Bergman's rule, and as per Bergman's rule, absolute size is inversely proportional to temperature. Um, uh, it is to lower surface area to volume ratio. Next is Allen's rule. uh, Allen's rules, he he took the Bergman's rule and expanded the rule by applying that external body part of warm-blooded animals is inversely proportional to temperature. This is Allen's rule. Then next one is Jordan's rule. Jordan's rules, as per Jordan's rule, fish size and number of vertebrate in aquatic ecosystem is inversely proportional to temperature. So he applied the Bergman's rule in aquatic ecosystem. Then next rule was Harrison's rules. As per this rule, parasite size is directly proportional to host size. Then next is Hess rules. Hess rules is derived from Bergman's rule, and as per Hess rules, herd size is inversely proportional to temperature. Then next is Foster's rule. This rule is also known as Iceland rule or Iceland effect. And as per this rule, size is directly proportional to resource available in the environment. It has nothing to do with temperature, but it is the availability of resource in the environment. Then next is Rappaport rules, and as per this rule, geographical extent of species is directly proportional to latitude. So, as per Rappaport rule, more species coexist in tropical region than the temperate region. Evolution types, as environment changes in environment led to evolution, so we will see how evolution take place. So evolution type based on environment. First is natural selection, evolution based on adaptation of nature or environment. Second one is artificial selection, evolution based on nature plus human introduced changes or gene insertion. Third one is isolation. Evolution based on non-mixing of gene because of isolation in population of a species. Evolution type based on organism. Convergent evolution, evolution of common features among different species like wings in bats, birds, and butterflies. Then divergent evolution, evolution of different species from a common ancestor. Dogs and fox evolved from common ancestor wolves. Then parallel evolution, evolution of two species independently. Two distinct populations in different geographic region evolved to have similar attributes because they occupy similar needs in similar ecosystem. It is like similar evolutionary pressure. Then co-evolution, evolution of two distinct population led to independent interdependence of evolved population, like evolution of plant and animal. Then cladogenesis. Cladogenesis is evolutionary splitting of parent species into two distinct species, or it is branching of species in two branches. Then anagenesis. It is evolution of different species from ancestor species over a long period of time without branching. So in bottom you can see the figure that first is divergent evolution. Here there is a common parent species, and two different species emerge from a ancestor. Then convergent evolution, in this there are two different parent species 1 and parent species 2, and a common features evolved in these species. Then parallel evolution, in parallel evolution, uh, two different two species living in different environment, but they evolve a common feature because of common evolutionary pressure, because of common change in environment 1 and environment 2. Then third one is co-evolution. Here two different parent species evolved, and with the evolution they also get interdependent. Now the anagenesis and cladogenesis. Uh, Here in the figure you can see the species B evolved from species A, and there is no branching between A and B, so it is anagenesis evolution. Then next is from species B, species C and species D evolved. So it was cladogenesis evolution. Evolution types, and it was based on gene ecology. Evolution because of migration, when a species is shifted to new environment. First one is ecophiles or ecades. It is same morphology, morphological changes, but and no changes in gene, and it is temporary changes as when the migrated species return back to original environment, he will get its original shape. Same morphology as the morphology of local population of new environment is ecophenes or ecate. Then second one is ecotype or same type. Changes in the gene, and it is permanent in nature. Same genes as local population of new environment. Then third one is eco-species. Eco-species means same species. Same species living in different environment led to change in gene and morphology. And in eco-species, we considered those same species who are able to breed and produce fertile offspring. Then coino species, in coino species, eco species able to breed, but offsprings were sterile. Then fifth one is comparium. Compariums are those ecospecies that are not able to breed at all. So in the figure you can see there is environment, a yellow environment and green environment. So species from a yellow environment is migrated in green environment. So those species whose morphology get changed, they were called of species of second environment. Then those species whose gene also get changed, they were called ecades. Not ecade, they were called ecotype or same gene. Then eco species are species that is species that lives in original environment and species that live in migrated environment. These two species are eco species because they were originally one species in the starting, but after migrating they got evolved, and because of evolution there are some changes like gene or morphology changes, but still they are same species, so they were called eco species. Evolution or genetic drift. Genetic drift reduces genetic variation. Change, it is change in the frequency of an existing gene variant in a population due to random chance. There are two type of genetic drift. One is bottleneck effect. Bottleneck effect is loss of genetic variation when next generation population is lower than the previous one. And second genetic drift is founder effect. It is loss of genetic variation when only a small part of big population established new population or generation. Speciation. It is formation of different species because of evolution. As evolution happened, so a new species came into picture. The term speciation was coined by Orator F. Cook, an American biologist, in 1906. Geographic mode of speciation. Allotr- Allopatric. Allopatric means evolution of new species because of geographical isolation, like mountain or river, and it is geographical isolation of the same species. So two different species evolved. You can see in the figure given below. So there is allopatric speciation. So there is barrier, and because of barrier, two different species evolved. One is red species and another one is green species. Then peripatric. Peripatric is when a small group break up from the larger group and form a new species. So in allopatric, the barrier is roughly divided into equal population, but in peripatric, it is same as allopatric, but only a small population get isolated from bigger population, so it is peripatric. The next one is parapatric. Species living in large geographical area, but due to pollution or other factors, the environment of few geographical regions will change and cause the change in species. So in the figure you can see three different species, and they are living in the same geographical region, but here the change is because of change in environment and in that sub-region. Like the species living in green belt is because of different environment in green belt than red and blue belt. Then fourth is sympatric. Sympatric is evolution of new species from a species living in same geographical region, and it is because of reproductive isolation. So here is there is no change in environment at sub-regional level, but the evolution the speciation is because of reproductive isolation, and it rarely happens in real world. Nice. Before describing nice, there is two component, biotic and abiotic component. Biotic is living component of an ecosystem or environment. It is like tree, human and animal. Then abiotic is non-living components like soil, water, air. Nice. It is the functional characteristic of a species in its habitat, and it is referred to as the nice of that species in its habitat. Habitat is address of a species, but niche it is profession of a species. Niche is the sum of all the activities and relationship of a species by which it uses the resources in its habitat for the survival and its growth. Different species in an ecosystem can have the same niche or different niche. Level of organization. So here there are different level of organization shown in pyramidal form. The first one is individual, then population, then community, then ecosystem, then biotope, then biosphere. And so, population. Population is a group of organisms of the same species occupying a definite area during a specific time. It is a group of individual from same species. Then second one is community. Community is population of different kind of organism living together and sharing the same habitat. And ecosystem. Then third one is ecosystem. Not third one, fourth one is ecosystem. An ecosystem is an integrated community plus its physical environment. So you can see in the figure there is the first three level of pyramid is biotic, defined based on biotic component, that is living organism. Then other part of pyramid is defined as biotic plus abiotic component. So ecosystem is community plus abiotic element of an ecosystem, plus abiotic element of community in which the community is living. So it is biotic plus abiotic element. Then next one is biotope. Biotope, not biotope, biomes. Biomes is many ecosystem with similar climatic conditions plus biotic plus abiotic element. It is group of ecosystem with similar climatic condition and similar biotic and abiotic elements. Biosphere, it is biosphere is all the biome together make up the biosphere. Biosphere is the entire part of the earth where living things exist. This includes soil, water, light, and air. Uh, the two terms ecotope. Ecotope is habitat of ecosystem, And biotope. Biotope is habitat of biome. And there are two other terms that was defined by ecologists. One is ecoline. Ecoline is transition zone between two ecosystem, and this transition is roughly linear one. Then ecotone. Ecotone is transition zone between two biome. Level of organism. It was what we discussed in last slide, but there is another term, ecozones. Ecozones are the biogeographic division of the Earth's land surface based on distributional pattern of terrestrial organism. Division based on the historic and evolutionary distribution of plant and animals. Only terrestrial part, not aquatic part of Earth. So ecozones is dividing the terrestrial part of Earth in similar climatic condition or similar ecozones. Ecotone. Ecotone is the transition zone between two biomes, like the transition zone between aquatic biome and terrestrial biome. Characteristic of ecotone. The transition zone can be very narrow or quite wide. The transition zone has climatic conditions intermediate to the adjacent biome. Hence, ecotone is a tension zone where adjacent biome species find a little different climate. The ecotone has species from both the adjacent biome as well as species that are entirely different from that of the adjoining community. Edge effect. Sometimes, not sometimes, roughly all of the time, the number of species and the population densities of the species is much greater in ecotone than either adjacent biome. The higher biodiversity in ecotone is called edge effect. The organism which occur primarily or most abundantly in this zone are known as edge species. So here is the figure where you can find grassland then forest, and there was transition zone or ecotone in which you will find shrub, small trees, and other species. And in this transition zone has edge effect, more species than forest ecosystem and forest biome and grassland biome. Ecology, different terms related to ecology, the basic terms. Ecological explosion, it is large increase in the population. Ecological release, increase in population because of loss of limiting factors. There are some factors which limit the population of species in an ecosystem, like availability of grass or other natural resource availability. It limits population, and when this limiting factor was not taken in picture, like there is infinite resource, so because of that, if there is increase in population, it is known as ecological release. So it was roughly same as ecological explosion, but there is one condition, that there is loss of limiting factor. Ecological transition, that concept was given by John Benetti. It is change in the relationship between human or animal and the physical environment because of environmental changes created by human being. Ecological succession, change in a species or community of an area with respect to the changing environment. In ecological transition, there was only change in relationship between environment and living organism. But in ecological succession, there is a change in species with the change in environment. Now, ecological succession are of two type. One is primary succession. Second one is secondary succession. The primary one is newly formed rock is colonized by living things. The succession which occurred for first time. Before that, there was no life in that ecosystem. Secondary succession. Recolonization of disturbed area, where disturbance was because of external factors like fire. And in recolonization, the disturbed area has soil present, but in primary succession there was no soil. At it was rock system. From rock there was soil formed, and then living beings evolved. Another division of ecological succession is allogenic versus autogenic succession. Allogenic is succession because of abiotic factor, and autogenic succession is because of biotic factor. And another division of ecological succession was hydrarch succession versus xerarch succession. Hydrarch is aquatic succession, and xerarch is dry region succession. Then next term is ecological footprint. Ecological footprint is rate of resource consumption and waste generation rate versus recycling rate of earth. It is human demand on natural capital or natural resource. Ecological productivity, it is rate of generation of biomass or weight in an ecosystem expressed in mass per unit volume per unit time. There are two type of ecological productivity. One is primary productivity, and second one is secondary productivity. The primary productivity, ecological productivity of plants or autotroph. Secondary productivity is ecological productivity of animals or heterotrophs. Species. Uh, there are different type of species defined. One is pioneer species. It is first to colonize barren environment or disturbed ecosystem. The next one is ruderial species. It is plant species that are first to colonize disturbed land. Ruderial species typically dominate the disturbed area for a few years and gradually losing the competition to other native species. And the disturbance may be because of wildfires or avalanche. Foundation species. These are primary producer or plant of an ecosystem that is the foundation of an ecosystem. Keystone species, species whose addition or loss to ecosystem led to a great change in ecosystem. Indicator species, species whose presence indicate parameters of an ecosystem. Flagship species, it is chosen vulnerable species in an ecosystem for which conservation efforts are required. Umbrella species, conserving species led to conservation of other species of an ecosystem. So in umbrella species, we choose a species whose conservation led to the conservation of other species also. Community. There is term bio biocoinosis or biota. It's mean biotic community. Now different term associated with community. We define if ecosystem in terms of community. So we need to see the term as different term associated with community. Major community. Major community is self-regulating, self-sustaining, and independent unit comprising a number of minor community in it. Example: forest is the part of major community. Minor community, it is part of major community and dependent on other community for its existence. Example: animals depend on forest. So those community who depend on another community is called minor community. So minor community basically part of major community, and it depends on some resource of major community. Then based on ecological succession, there are three communities defined. One is pioneer community, first community to appear in a bare area. It is also known as primary community. Generally, the pioneer community comprises small size species. Being a primary community, it is more tolerant to environment changes but low biodiversity. It is good colonizer but poor competitors. Next one is climax community. Climax community is final community of an area during ecological succession. Species of different size adopted to the environment. It is less tolerant to environment changes but high in biodiversity. It is poor colonizer but good competitors. Then cereal communities. A cereal community is an intermediate stage of ecological succession advancing toward the climax community. In bottom, you can see the figure of ecological succession. How a bare rock environment get transformed into tree ecosystem. From bare rock, lichen evolves on bare rocks, then bryophytes, then herbaceous, then shrub, and then finally tree evolves. So in starting, the lichens evolved on bare rock. So lichens is part of pioneer community, and tree is our end product or final stage. So it is called as climax community. And the bryophyte, herbaceous, and shrubs, these are transitional stage. So this community, bryophyte community, herbaceous, and shrub were part of cereal community. So this is all about today. Thank you.